Welcome back to Kin in Line. This I make part 75. I'm in Port Elizabeth and it's the mid-1980s. Here we are at Hobie Beach. Now if you've been to Hobie Beach since about 1991 or 2, you'll know that there's a big pier there and sand is built up and it's a lovely swimming beach. But I think these are the rocks upon which the pier was built, essentially. So there's a rocky outcrop there, and the beach was covered in rocks with just a bit of sand, and they used to launch Hobie cats. The big races were held from this beach, which gave it the name Hobie Beach, and I think that's a little Hobie cat on the right. But essentially very low-key and not really a swimming beach. But now, of course, it's one of the popular bathing beaches thanks to that pier built just before the ANC came into power. So I always enjoy on the beach. You can get that sense of perspective with this waves crashing in on the left there, and just a rocky outcrop, a few palms in the background. There are buildings I could have suggested behind that, but I'll see the next picture and you'll see why. So this is a different angle of Hobie Beach, those same foreground rocks. Just a sec. Yeah, and then the Summer Strand high-rise apartment buildings were already quite dominant along the beachfront there. And that's the kind of walkway that leads from the pier, which would be behind us to the right, the start of the pier, all along to Pollock Beach at the end of this walk. And yeah, a lovely wave for surfing just off here. It has a name which the local surfers will tell you, but I can't even remember that. As I mentioned in the previous video, playing around in the rock pools is a great feature at low tide on the beachfront, and these kids and a dad or somebody are making the most of it. There you can see, I think that's called Kop, that mountain on the other side of the bay. It's not very high, but anyway, it is a bit of a landmark. So I quite like the understated way I've coloured this, leaving the line to do most of the work. As I mentioned earlier in the previous video, there was a place called the Red Windmill Roadhouse, and I think this was probably also done there. Suggestion of a seagull up the top, and then just a woman walking in high heels, of all things. Very just gentle washes of colour. Here I've used a lot more colour, and you can get the activity of the chap winding his fishing rod reel vigorously at the bottom there. And then just two figures, two faces. Again, it's a composition you won't readily find on your cameras. There's no setting for that. Now this woman has a kind of a Dutch look to her, but she was also drawn on the beachfront. Interesting to know what that little hat was all about. This woman, we can just get her across. She seems to have a broom. So this could have been at the roadhouse as well. Actually cleaning up maybe after keeping the area spruce, which doesn't happen much these days. There's so much unemployment in this country, and they could put money aside to employ people to clean up townships that are an absolute mess. Everywhere is becoming a mess. So here's another large figure sort of bent forward. And to me, it doesn't really matter the fact that it's an incomplete figure. It is a figure, and it's a figure in action. And it's the drawing that really counts. And the nice, subtle sort of washes of colour over it. Less subtle is this. Yeah, and I think the bold red is really there to offset the bold black lines, and I think it works quite well. I don't really mind that there isn't a mouth, What there is what you interpret, and the hand is well drawn, and yeah. This chap's coming. So yeah, sometimes a very quick sketch can give you interesting results. No one's going to be flattered by this, but as a drawing, I think it works very well. And particularly with that bit of colour, just to liven it up a bit. Here too, it's all about the character and how she's captured in a few lines and brought to life with a flourish of brush strokes and washes of colour. As I mentioned, if I can just get these birds to fly across. So this was probably also done at Hobie Beach before the pier went up. Seagulls used to love sort of walking around there to pick up the odd tidbit, the odd chip that had been dropped or something. I think this next one captures it better. So yeah, you can actually see the front of a car and just birds hovering around, hanging around. I'm not sure what the foreground figure is, but it certainly completes the composition. And I even managed to capture a gull in some detail here. So I think these are kelp gulls, the most common Southern African seagull. I like the way I've kept the birds together, but here we've got birds and men. Again, I think a very good composition with some interesting faces there. Humans and birds. A tiny squiggle at the top, just to add a fifth element. Not very successful painting here, just sometimes they don't work, and this one didn't really work. This one I think does work. It's a bay full of sails and a ship. So plenty of activity out in Algoa Bay. So even though South Africa was going through turmoil in the 80s, life sort of went on. Sail boarding, I never got into this myself, but yeah, this was very popular for a while. I think it was called sailboard. Here's yet another one. My whole aim always was just to capture the essence of the figure, the movement of the person across the page, and then just accentuate it using colour. I think it works there. Here, very sort of light touch. This is a view from Pollock across Pollock Beach out towards Cape Recife. So another lovely stretch where you can use figures to evoke depth and perspective. And here's this sea washing in, foliage on the right. Classic beach scene. And at Hobie Beach, before the pier, there was this little couple of benches, and here we have an old couple sitting around, soaking up the sun and just enjoying an outing at the beach. And I think the colours really work for me. And out in the bay, another ship. We're going to have to speed this up because this yacht is in a hurry. That's a Hobie Cat, I think. So really, even though one is sketching something, one also has to use license to firstly create a complete picture, which that yacht certainly just does. That sail completes the composition. And then I think the colours work rather well. Little sketch there, that's not worth looking at. And this is a different occasion altogether now, with some tightly drawn little figures. Can I zoom in here? Yeah. Yeah, this is an altogether different time. I'm not sure who these people are. '80s Port Elizabeth, that's about all I can say. No recollection of when I did these, which is quite incredible. This might have been Anne's store if I hadn't parted yet from her. That looks like it could be her. This guy won't allow me to extricate him. Oh, there he comes. Yeah. Definitely worth considering watercolouring these as well. But always the technique is to just get down a face, get down a figure. Look at the effect is just so much better line-wise and drawing-wise than if you spend too long mulling over it. And who might these two be? Good to know that there are some romantic people still in the world, even though my romantic life was going down the tube. Not much there. So I lived in Parsons Hill for a while in a block of flats near Collegiate Junior, and went up onto went to a point where there was a view out over North End and Algoa Bay. So that's what this is. So the new football stadium would have been nestled down the bottom there somewhere. The 2010 World Cup soccer stadium. Now dominates that bottom area. So this was the sweep of Algoa Bay. And some reason this drawing crept in. I think I drew this from my balcony. I even signed it 1985. So this is a quick one done with watercolors, just of a passing old chap with glasses on. It shows you can actually draw with, draw line with a brush, almost like calligraphy. That's probably why I signed it. I thought it was quite special. Let's stop for now. Cheers.